So I'm going to request Anubhav Gupta to hop in to please share his presentation as well with the attendees and with all of us.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I found the previous two sessions quite interesting. In our day-to-day engagement with our own industry, we really don't look around us to see what's happening in different industries. So, I'll take you through in next quick 15 to 20 minutes about what MasterCard's future view is on what the possible new purchasing journey for customers could be, and what are a couple of interventions and new products that we as a payment company envisage in this new purchasing journey to make it a reality and make it a frictionless and a secure purchase. So, time to time at MasterCard, we come with what we call our future view. Our view on what the industry is going to be, and that is when we look at it from a 2 to 5 year perspective, how the industry is changing. Now, one of the things that we are seeing is, everybody's talking about data. Everybody's talking about online. How data is changing, how online world is changing the way consumers shop. They decide what they want to buy, and they actually go and do the final purchase. When we look at how the social trends are changing, I mean, Facebook is passé, Instagram is in. There's no guarantee that Instagram is going to be there for 6 to 7 years. That Facebook kind of ruled the roost. It could go out much faster. There are already people are talking about mobile phone going away, and always on connected devices coming in play. Now, if you look at how we shop today in a digital world, you'll find that the augmented reality and the virtual reality technology is becoming mainstream. So, for example, if you were to buy furniture on any of the online furniture stores, they allow you to click pictures of your home, place furniture, and you can see how it would look in your room. On Lenskart, for example, you can select the frames or the sunshades which you want, and you could click your picture, and you could really see how you would look. What's also happening is with increasing acceptance of Alexa, Google Assistant, Siri, people are integrating end-to-end shopping experience on the digital devices. With the kind of information that is available today, with all marketeers and organizations which are savvy enough to collect data, personalization continues to grow. And what we find today is that with all these changes, who are the large companies which are, if you look at who are the large companies who are making money. So you have, all of you have heard about FANG, right? Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google. If you see, these are in a way subscription companies, right? Google is also moving towards subscription, but Facebook is also kind of subscription company. The cost is free today, right? Apple is a subscription company because it keeps selling you services, keeps building upon all the hardware that you bought over a period of time. And so is Netflix. So it is essentially about owning the customer tools. Once you own the customer tools, you look at data and you are able to close sales by showcasing your products to those set of customers. Now, what is it that we require to do? As a new business which is going to target the millennials and the new millennials or the Gen Z that's going to come in now, they are digital native generation. They are, if I were to say, or if I would go and talk to my parents to say, this is how a new chair will look in your home, would you go and take a decision to buy? They would most probably say no. Until we touch and feel a thing, until we sit on a chair and decide to buy it, we'll not touch it. But the fact is, this technology is going to create a new touch point for brands. People are going to feel products. People are going to visualize products. People are going to touch products in a virtual platform. And that is the experience that businesses will seek to create for their customers. Ability of, if you look at, there are so many digital assistants out there, but we see Alexa and Google doing better than most of the people. Why? Because, they have the computing capability, they have the, right algorithms, where as more and more people talk to them, they become smarter, they are able to pick up various accents, various languages. And as you are tracked on all the activities that you do on your phone, you do on your connected devices, you do on your computers, a complete persona is built of you over a period of time. That's how people define your persona. And we heard Mr. Virmani talking about it. How he looks at 1.5 million customer data on an everyday basis, and knows a little bit more about them every day. So now, there's so much talk about privacy in India, but you'll find that, Google's, Facebook's, and Apple's probably know more about you than government of India does. And that's the reality of it. So a lot of this changes the way we buy things. No longer will we be required to take out our cards, our payment credentials are most of the websites that you go to, you find that your payment credentials are already there, right? You enter your CVV and the payment goes through. So what's happening really is that most of the part, if you look at, let's say about 3 to 4 years ago when the online trend started, online purchasing started in India, at every checkout, you would end up ending your address, you would end up entering your payment details, and then doing a journey. Today, most of the online merchants are interested in making it as frictionless as possible, which means they want you to come in and they want you ideally to check out in a single click. So once you say buy now, they don't want you to experience any kind of friction. Now, in order to ensure that that can be done, there are a lot of things that are required to create a journey which is frictionless. One of the biggest changes which is happening is tokenization. Now, what is tokenization? Tokenization is putting a replacement of a card number in places where transactions are done to ensure that the payments are frictionless and secure. I mean, there are so many players in an ecosystem. There are card issuers, there are merchants, there are digital payment partners, payment service providers, acquirers, and all of them use different technologies to ensure that their payments go through. How do we try to secure things? So basically, what happens in an online world is that you are all aware that we used to say that I don't want to put my card number in a place. It can be be compromised. There could be charges that come on my card, but that's not that's changing. If you see people when they believe they are secure on a website, they will end up buying much more. They will end up generating much more revenue, and the propensity to purchase at that particular site goes up dramatically. To enable all of this, what payment networks are doing today is replacing your card numbers by single use or multiple use virtual tokens that are linked to your profile and on either particular devices or on particular use cases. So tokenization will secure payments in your offline world, in your digital world, in your mobile world. And the beauty of tokenization is it is in a way custom built for the mobile world. So when you look at I don't know how many of you have used Samsung Pay. On certain Samsung phones, you can store your card credentials and you can just tap the phone to do a payment. Now, if you look at the charge slip which is coming out of the device, you will see that the last 4 digits of the card that are displayed on the charge slips are different from the actual last 4 digits of your card, which means what travels in the communication channels between the POS machine where you tap your card or tap your phone all the way to the bank and the approval which comes is happening on a virtual number, which is not your card number. So, if you have situations like you had on Target in US, a lot of other places, where a lot of card credentials get leaked and you keep hearing news, 20 million card numbers available in the dark web, etc. You'll find that your numbers will not appear there if the merchant was a merchant where tokenized data was stored. So, MasterCard has a unique service which is called MDES, which is MasterCard Digital Enablement Service. It converts your PAN, which is your permanent account number, which is the number printed on your card, into a token. And then with the help of digitization, the same is transferred to various connected devices that you could have. So for example, Samsung launched a smart refrigerator a couple of years back. It was a tech lead kind of product. So it did not sell in huge numbers. Essentially, depending upon what is stored in the refrigerator, when you, let's say, pick up a bottle of Coke and there's a particular section for soft drink, it will place an order, and since there's a token inside the refrigerator, your card will get debited automatically. So you don't really need to go and place the order. It keeps ordering on its own. So for example, you have heard of Fitbit, tap and go on Fitbit. That is something powered by this. You've heard of Apple Pay. You've heard of Android Play globally. It's not yet come to India. You've heard of Samsung Pay. All those services are powered by MasterCard Digital Enablement Service. So not only for consumers, it's a service which has benefits for across the value chain. Our typical value chain has merchants who are linked to the payment network through the acquirers. We have issuers. Issuers are your card issuers, banks like SBI, ICICI, HDFC, Axis, and so on and so forth. merchants like Amazon, Flipkart, or any other merchant, your neighborhood mom and pop store where you could be buying your grocery. And for consumers like you and me, it offers a new way to pay, a better user experience, and also, adequate and incremental peace of mind, knowing fully well that your physical card details are not out in the open. So for merchants, hitherto merchants have required a lot of certifications in order to be able to keep with them certain payment data. With tokenization, the options go up. How a merchant can look for a trusted device, which could be your mobile phone, which is authenticated basis your past interactions with the device and your payment instrument, and say I will allow one-click payments from this device for this particular account, and that is what all of this is all about. So if you look at MDES sits at a wall between all the ecosystem and the issuer who issues your card, and it is what is behind your Apple Pay, Samsung, all the new payment mechanism that you see today, have tokenization established in it. So other than the physical card, when you take your physical card and you go and dip it in a card reader, everything else is tokenized, and somehow that experience also is tokenized when you tap your card and use it. So another critical part is, as we are becoming more and more secure, and as we're going more and more online, we find the hacking is also growing multifold. And in fact, they are ahead of how we try to secure our systems. But in the payment space, a payment network like Mastercard always has to try and stay ahead of hackers, because its payment is all about trust. Once the trust is broken, it is almost impossible to get it back. So at the center of the digital ecosystem or the digital commerce has to be security. And security does not mean that I ask you to remember 20 passwords for a transaction for 0 to 500 rupees. There's a different password. 500 to 2000 is a different password, and above that, keep changing passwords. Security has to be frictionless. Security has to be convenient. Security has to ensure that you feel in control of your payment credentials, of your devices, and have the flexibility to use them as and when you want, with convenience and user experience inbuilt. So what really happens is, anytime you get on board a website or an online store on either an app or a mobile browser, or on your laptop browsers or computer browsers, you start interacting with those people. And we keep collecting your data through various means. When I say we, I'm saying the person keeps collecting your data, and they are able to build a persona of you. Now, that persona can also mean that this person browses web between 10 and 11 at night. He does it on a laptop, which is a full HD screen, does not use the laptop trackpad, uses a mouse, and so many other things. So, things that you will never know of are also captured of how your interaction is happening with the system. Now, all this leads to, and as you continue your journey of interaction, it leads to very authenticate, very identifiable individual persona of each and every customer or each and every individual. Throughout these stages is when we try and create products to ensure that each and every stage of interaction is what is secured by some kind of a check. So, Mastercard recently, about a couple of years back, bought a company called NuData. Now, NuData is a company which is into behavioral biometrics. Now, for example, how do behavioral biometrics work? How you hold a phone. Let's say, I have your phone's password or PIN, and I take your phone and I try typing your PIN into your PIN pad. Ideally, if I know your PIN, I should be able to enter your phone. But if your phone is running a new detect system on top of it, it will know that the person who's entering the PIN is not Anubhav Gupta, because he's entering the same PIN, but he's holding phone at a different angle. He's pressing the screen with different pressure, and all the keys have different sizes, right? So one is so depending on your size of the hand, you will end up hitting the one key or the one button or the 5 button at the same place. So what happens is that somebody else is typing, it will be hitting at a different place, and that is exactly what this engine is looking for. So without impacting the customer experience in real time, What it does, it creates a data points, and it says whether this person is the person who this device is linked to, who is a trusted user of the device. And basis that, depending on the type of transaction that a person is doing, it can take a real-time call to approve or decline a transaction. We are all aware of voice authentication, iris scan, fingerprint, face ID. So these are all single point authentications. What we are talking now about is passive behavioral biometrics, which is extremely different from what we have been used to. And your behavior is ingrained in you from the day you are born, so you can't change it. I might use a photograph. When initially the Face ID started, people could fool the devices by using a photograph. Then they started looking for 3D images. Then a lot of devices expected to blink to see that it's a live person whom they're looking at. In case of passive biometrics, that is not really the case. So it is invisible to consumers. It cannot be spoofed, copied, or changed because it has been ingrained over a period of time. And since it happens in the background, there is almost zero friction. So some of the things that I talked about earlier, it looks at the devices that you're talking to. It looks at the kind of connections. So are you on 4G? Are you on Wi-Fi? Are you using the same Wi-Fi router that you have been normally using at that point in time? Is the transaction coming in a range of IP which is given to a particular geographical area? Is it coming from a different country? If it's coming from a different country, what is the time? So it looks at all of those things. And what it also does is, you have had so many right interactions with different kind of merchants in the past. So there's a trust consortium which has been created. And let's say there's a device which is used to send out malicious requests, malicious payment requests. That device is actually banned from all the merchants. So to that level, NewDetect tries to create a trusted party network and keeps checking for the right consumer. So the whole story is moving from what you know to who you are. The whole concept of identity theft is this tries to go away from the concept of identity theft to recognize a person. So if you look at digital world, you'll find that in physical, when you take your card and you swipe, you have almost 97% approval rate on transactions. Whereas the moment you try doing it in digital world, it is only 80%, which means 20% of the transactions don't get approved. And that is what bugs the merchants and the card holders. Why is my transaction getting declined? The fact is, when it's a non-face-to-face transaction, the risk of a fraudster being behind the transaction is very high. And how we as an industry have tried to solve it in India and globally was OTP, which used to come to people. But the fact is, have you ever tried entering a different CVV and see that you still get an OTP, which means it is not being checked at that point in time. You get an OTP is generated, and only at the next stage it is checked against the payment that you're making when it goes to the card company. So what really is happening is that all the the OTP is generated basis a request which has no other data, just the card number. So the linked phone number is getting the OTP. Now, as an industry, we are moving to 3DS 2.0, which is the 3 domain secure 2.0 protocol. Let me just show you what is the difference between the two. So if you see on the left of your screen is 3DS 1.0 data. And if you look at the right of your screen is the 3DS 2.0 data. It has almost 10 times the fields versus what was being captured till now. And we'll move to this in about next 1.5 to 2 years completely across merchants, across issuers. So essentially, with this live, there would be ideally no need for anybody to enter an OTP. If we know you are on your device, it is barely, we expect not more than 1 to 2% of transactions to be challenged, where your behavior is not like your behavior in the past, where you will be asked for an additional OTP or any kind of password to authenticate your transaction. And this is where the world is moving to. Which means without you entering anything additional, just by holding your device and using it the way you do, we will know that you are the person who's trying to do a transaction. So, and what is the need for all this? Are we not able to buy today? Are we not able to purchase today? All new technologies definitely cost money. Why do we need to do them? Another question, a lot of banks, a lot of merchant ask us, why are you trying to fix what is not broken? The fact is that, like I said earlier, there are systems and there are hackers who are trying to break the system. You have to try and stay one step ahead of them. You know, when brands like Tovia are trying to build their brands, people want to be able to buy without having a feeling that if I go on a certain website, you know, a marketplace or any other online or a small merchant, my data may not be secure. That fear has to go away from people if we want digital payments to become smooth and robust. And that is what this really, is aiming at. So, it reduces the need to remember multiple passwords. It moves to identity from the knowledge of password. And both financial institutions and merchants are able to better risk model and offer better services with lesser sales abandonment given the way the technology is shaping. Sorry. So the MasterCard is working on a product called Identity Check Express. This is a product that you're going to see shortly coming in. For the very first time, that you go to a site that is enabled for MasterCard Identity Check, you will be asked to enter your OTP like you do a normal transaction. And once you've done that, you'll just say pay now, click, and your transaction will start going through. So that's how it's going to work. Everything is going to happen at the back end. Let's say you do a transaction which is out of your regular style of transaction or your regular location. That is the only point when you are going to get challenged to do a verification check. So that's it what I have for you guys today. Any questions that I can take?
But thank you so much, Anubhav. We have a question from Manavendra Gokhale who says, shadow card use in India is not governed by law. What time frame do you see and why customer mindset will change around this? So I don't know what shadow cards are, but
I'm sorry. I've also not heard that word.
So Manavendra, we'll take that question offline for you and get you.
I think by shadow card he means tokenization. The fact is tokenization is allowed in India. It is very much available for the usage in India. In fact, Samsung Pay uses that. There are a lot of other wallets that are getting launched shortly, and it is permitted. So there is, in fact, RBI allows tokenization, and that's a permitted way of usage of cards.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anubhav. That was a wonderful presentation. Over to you, Kavya.